Most of the variables you deal with when you write Access VBA code will be single variables, such as item prices, shipping rates, and so on. However, if you must deal with a set of values of the same type, such as a set of shipping rates, you can do so by creating an array. In this movie, we'll use the code in the Define Arrays code module, so I'll double-click that over in the navigation pane to open it. And I have a very simple subroutine. Basically, I have the Define Arrays subroutine named, and then I create a variable called charges count, and that is an integer. An array is a set of values of the same type, and you define an array like you would any other variable, but you add a number or numbers in parentheses after the variable's name to indicate the number of elements in the array. So let's say, for example, that you ship products using one of 6 different shipping rates, and that rate is based on the package's weight. To create an array to hold those 6 rates, you would use this command. And typing below the charges count as integer line, it would be dim, dim, space, then CUR, that's the indicator I use for a currency variable, and then type shipping charges. So that would be SHIPPING, charges. Then a left parentheses and the number 5, then a right parentheses, a space, as currency, and return. Now notice that the number in the parentheses is 1 less than the number of elements. That's because the first element has the number 0 as its identifier. VBA, like most programming languages, starts counting at 0. That means an array with 6 items will have those items numbered 0 through 5. If you want to number array items starting at 1, you can. To do that, you click in the declaration section and type option base 1 and then return. If you do that, make sure that you put comments elsewhere in your code so that your colleagues will know that's what you've done. In most cases, you should stay with 0 unless there's a good reason not to. So I'll go ahead and erase option base 1 by selecting it and then pressing delete a couple of times. Now the next question is, how do you populate the array? There are a number of ways you can do that. You can use a do-while loop to read values in from a table, for example, or you can assign the values directly. So I'll click below the 2 declaration statements, press enter, give myself a little bit of room to work. Now let's say that I want to create a variable called shipping types. So for that, it would be dim, dim, a space, then string, str, ship, ship, types. And again, that's all one word. And I will declare it as a variant. Now note that even though I have named shipping types as a string, or at least used my indicator to indicate that it will contain string values, I had to define that variable as a variant. And the reason is that anytime you create an array, you must use the variant variable type. And that's okay, because a variant can handle any type of data within it. With the ship types variable defined as a variant, now I can define the array values. So for that, it would be string ship types, then equal, and then a space, and the keyword array, A-R-R-A-Y, then a left parentheses, and a series of values that you want to put into the array, and all of the strings must be within sets of double quotes. So double quote and overnight, double quote, then a comma, double quote today, comma, then quotes, 3-day, comma, and double quotes ground. And then double quotes and a right parentheses, because that's the last item I want to put in, and press enter. Now let's say that I want to display one of those values in a message box. To do that, type in MSG, BOX, a space, and then the variable name, which is string, str, ship types, then a left parentheses, and then the number of the item. Now remember that unless you change it, the first item is number 0, so I'll type in a 0, and then a right parentheses, and a down arrow so that we can see the line without interference. So I have a message box that displays the string ship types array element 0, and that should be overnight. So when I press F5 to run the code, I see overnight in the message box. The procedure I showed you assumes that you know how many items will end up in your array. But let's suppose you're creating an array from user input and you don't know how many items they'll enter. In that case, you can create a dynamic array and change the array's size using a redim statement later in the program. To define a dynamic array, you use a statement such as this one. You would say dim currency shipping charges, but then instead of having a number inside of the parentheses, you would just leave it blank. So that means that you are defining it as an array, but you don't know how many elements will be in it. Now you can use what's called a redim statement later on in your program to indicate the size. So let's say that I want to work with the shipping charges. So I'll type redim, RDIM, a space, then CUR, shipping charges, and we'll make it 5 in the parentheses and press enter. So that redefines it. The problem is that if you redimension an array, Access deletes the existing values in the array unless you use the preserve keyword after redim. So for example, if I wanted to keep my existing values in the shipping charges array, I would need to type preserve after redim. Preserve, and then press a down arrow. Doing so would keep existing values inside of the array. Arrays help you maintain and look up data quickly without having to look up values in your tables. Maintaining these values in memory speeds up program execution and simplifies your programming job significantly.